I've been getting some comments and messages on Instagram asking who I think is going to win the next fight between Ilya Topuria and Charles Oliveira. Obviously for betting, because they are tremendous gamblers, but like me, what I was waiting for was the fight between Topuria and Islam Makhachev. Well, I'm a bit disappointed, although this door has closed, at least for now, and let's see what the odds are in this case. The truth is, it's not that easy. Let's take it step by step. Both have strengths and weaknesses, and in mixed martial arts, anything can happen. Let's start with the advantages of Charles Oliveira. Charles has 21 submissions within UFC, which is a record, apart from having demonstrated the ability to finish from any position, which makes him quite dangerous in case of going to the ground with him. Charles's arms and legs are more to maintain distance with the use of it already. While he doesn't have boxing, they can do damage, and when he presses with it, he can hurt to the point of winning his fights by technical chaos. And yes, many will tell me that fighters already train to fight in 5 rounds, but training is one thing and having real fighting experience is another. Doesn't your sparring partner want to rip your head off? Usually. This experience is priceless. Charles often wins championships when his rivals are already exhausted. On many occasions, Charles has been given a hard time. Despite facing difficult situations, he manages to turn them around, often surprising those who become overconfident when they see him struggling. It has happened many times. And this is a double-edged sword, but we'll get to that later. Besides, he has a pretty balanced fighting style. He has a solid striking ability, utilizing punches, kicks, knees, elbows, and an often overlooked weapon. The clinch, which is where many of the sequences that have made him win his fights usually start. But now let's go with Ilya. Ilya has shown an ability to connect not only punches with quite high precision, but with a lot of power because Ilya's hands weigh quite a bit. Another advantage that could play in his favor is his grappling and wrestling base. I think in a fight against Charles, his grappling could be decisive, but more so his defensive form. He could avoid being taken down, continue the standing game, contrast the submission game, or stay on top. But honestly, I think the advantage, could be more on a defensive level than offensive. Another advantage is his age. At 27, he is much younger than Charles, who is almost 35. It's not a decisive point, but time doesn't stand still, and it's certainly something to consider. His boxing skills make him one of the top strikers in the UFC. And this is courtesy of having a really clean technique, which not only adds to his attack, but also to his defense, with head movements and punch passes that allow him to counterattack very effectively. However, his greatest advantage is undoubtedly his mental strength. When a fight approaches, Topuria appears to start visualizing his victory. He knows that losing is an option, but he never puts it on the table. His thing is to win. He always projects himself as a winner, and that adds a lot to the issue of confidence. We have seen this in many stories, where a champion's mindset is a significant factor when it comes to fighting. But let's go with the disadvantages. Let's go again with Charles. Among one of Charles's most clear weaknesses is his jaw. Remember that when I talk about the jaw, it's in the context of contact sports. And we're referring to a fighter's ability to withstand blows, preferably to the face or head, without being knocked out. And mind you, it's not that Charles has a glass jaw, but the truth is that more than once he's been hit and sent to the canvas. And while it's true that many who sent him to the canvas ended up losing, it's also true that he hasn't dealt with Ilya's punch. Another issue that doesn't help him is his clear difficulty handling pressure, not just in the cage, but the pressure of expectations placed on him. Let's remember that before he had his first child, he would practically give up when the fights got tough for him, because he had a sort of loser mentality, to put it in some way. And although much of that has changed, I have noticed, for example, in the fight against Islam, and then the failure returned to some of that loser mentality. but it was due to the enormous pressure of knowing that the chances of losing were high. And let's remember that for Charles, being a champion more than a legacy is a way to make more money for his family. Another factor that could hinder him against Topuria is the challenge of making weight. Charles struggles to make 155 pounds, about 70.3 kilograms. Despite regaining about 15.43 pounds of fluids before the fight, the previous wear and tear takes its toll, and anyone who has had to cut weight to fight can attest to this. And of course, what not many consider a disadvantage, but often is a determining factor, is speed. Charles is not particularly the fastest in his category, neither in attacks nor in movements. Clashing with someone who pressures that difference can be crucial, especially when navigating complicated situations. Let's focus on Topuria. While some fans may claim Keelan has no holes in his game, this isn't entirely accurate. The obvious difference is in reach. Charles has a reach, according to statistics, of 188 centimeters, while Topuria has one of 178. This will force him to seek the internal fight, as he will have to get in and brawl. And that is exposing oneself to danger. Another aspect that might not play in his favor is the lack of experience in the lightweight category. Let's remember that when Topuria fought in the lightweight, he was kicked in the head and almost knocked out. And yes, Dai Herbert sent his mouthguard flying twice. Although time has passed, it was the fight where he looked his worst. Despite winning, it was a good scare. In terms of quality, Charles has faced the entire elite of the category. And Topuria's only experience in lightweight was tougher than what we're used to, so it's something to consider. He has never fought 5 rounds, as he always finishes his fights before reaching that point. But if things get complicated and the cardio starts to fail, you could have problems on your hands if your opponent has already been through that on several occasions, like Charles. In conclusion, Ilya has what it takes to beat Charles, but it won't be easy. The outcome will depend on the strategy employed. In my view, she should keep the fight standing as much as possible, where she has a clear advantage. Do I think Charles can defeat Topuria? Well, based on experience, his danger on the ground, and because he usually comes out on top in tough fights, I think he can defeat Topuria. But the key will be in the strategy he proposes. Given everything I've mentioned, I think Topuria really stands a good chance of winning. I give it a 70% chance of happening. Still, as I said earlier, anything can happen. We've seen Underdog come out and turn the situation around more times. And a hit, a distraction, or anything can make your fight go sideways and you lose. And in the end, well, the odds that I'm telling you, well, I'm also giving Charles a 30% chance. Of these two warriors, you already have the history of the 2 volumes, one that we will probably update when this fight comes, while we are going to wait to see which of the 2 approaches is the most effective. And well, tell me in the comments. What do you think of my analysis? Which team are you on, Topuria or Oliveira? See you next time.